We're starting right on page 4 of our workbook, and we're starting with journal prompt 1, which is exploring your motivations and desired outcomes for this course. This is an important exercise, and I don't want you to skip past it. And I really think it's important because I have found with the digital course, so many people lost sight of why it was important. And when you are dealing with your trauma, while you are dealing with all these things that are coming up and facing emotions that you haven't wanted to face, you need to be anchored to the end goal. And if you haven't thought out what that looks like, you need to take some time to do that. If I can just share with you guys, and I do like to share very vulnerably and very openly. I think it's important. But for me, I suffered a lot of trauma in childhood. I suffered a lot of trauma my whole life, actually, until like my 40s, when I started really waking up and I got sick of my stuff and I said, I'm going to heal. And I was working with a psychiatrist at the time, but she didn't say a whole lot. I did most of the talking. And there's one day when I just got it. It clicked in my head what trauma was. It clicked in my head how to release it, And once I did that, I was able to I was like the trauma eater. I was consuming my trauma. I was clearing it. I was moving it out of there. Well, I cleared a lot of trauma pretty quickly. I did. I understood it. Once I understood something, I had dominion over it. But I had no context for what was going to happen next. And for me, what happened next was I forgot how to walk without that trauma. I don't know that I ever learned. I always had this extra weight, this extra energy on my back. And all of a sudden I felt lighter, but I didn't really understand how to move in this world with less energetic gravity holding me down. That was jarring for me. It was so unsettling. And I think I felt like I was failing because I thought my trauma being gone, I'm just going to immediately feel so much better. And I didn't. And it took me a while to understand that, So there are times when I have felt so taken under by some of what I'm processing or dealing or facing or understanding for the first time in a new way, that I need to stay anchored into the end goal that sits before me. Right? And so one of the first things my psychiatrist asked me that I think was beneficial was, what do you want out of this? And I remember the biggest thing I said to myself was, I don't want to make trauma-informed choices in my life anymore. And that kept me anchored to something. It kept me anchored to something in a beautiful way. So I want you guys to really think out how you expect life to look at the end of this. Right? What do you want to change as a result of this? What are your motivations for it? Are you just doing shadow work because it's trendy and you have tried everything, so why not try this too? If that's your only motivation, it's probably not going to be enough to keep you on track when things get hard. Okay? Are you here because you followed me for a while and you've seen the proof of what happens and you're really eager to get into it? Okay? Why are you here? I think it's important to have those inquisitions with ourselves every so often so that we understand ourselves and so we can hold ourselves to account in a real way. As part of that journal prompt, there is a personal commitment contract that I want you to sign for these same reasons. And I want you to photocopy it or tear it out and put it up on your wall. All right? I want you to hold yourself accountable. There is a witness section there. If you feel called to have a witness, just validate that. I think it's always good to have a healing, helping partner, right? So this is someone who maybe you can go to when you're feeling down and talk some of this out with them, when they have the space. This is someone who you give permission to hold you accountable in your healing journey. Maybe this is someone that you're doing the healing with. Separately, but together. You're both doing the workbook and you're both holding yourself accountable. And I think healing in that way is a beautiful thing, because then let's set up a date. Let's meet for coffee once a week. Let's discuss some of our insights. Let's share them with each other. Let's learn from each other while we further release some of this energy. I think that can be a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. So I encourage you to get creative, but I want you to sign this contract. I want you to commit to every bit of this. To that point, you guys, no skipping around with the exercises, no reading ahead, no watching videos ahead. There's a very logical sequence to how we move here. We revisit some things that we need to revisit, but we move from the root chakra all the way up to the crown. So we're releasing energy in a really intended way. All right. We start with identity. We move up. All right. So I want you to stick with it. And again, I want you to have momentum in your healing. Hold yourself accountable, but give yourself some extra space. Right? I want you to make rules around that space. So I have rules around depression that I like to share. And I just want you to hear this and think of your own rules around holding yourself accountable when things get a little heavy. If I get sad, I allow myself to indulge fully in that for no more than 3 days. After 3 days, that's enough. I need to rise. Okay? Now, I have rules for what happens within that 3 days. I don't have to require much of myself except for these 3 things. I must get out of bed. I can get out of bed and move to a couch. I just have to get out of bed. Okay? No bed rotting for me. That only helps to drag me down even further. I have to eat at least one decent meal. Okay? That again, if I don't eat or if I eat not great, I'm going to contribute to that negative state of being that I don't want to be in. Right? And I have to take a shower every day, at least one. Okay? That's all going to help me to pull myself out of that lower vibration while giving myself space to explore it. Okay? So I don't want to deny how I feel. I don't want to pretend that I'm okay if I'm not okay. But I also don't want to allow myself to overindulge in those more negative feelings. And some of you guys are overindulgers. All right. So make rules for yourself. If I hit something that's really hard for me to process, okay, I'm going to make sure that I come to those Wednesday meetings or whenever the meetings are, because they're probably going to be on different days. I'm going to make sure that I come to one if I'm struggling, right? That's the first thing. I'm going to set some parameters up around my behavior. So do I get to fall apart and not care about myself at all? No. I'm going to create at least 3 rules to hold myself accountable, right? But I'm also going to give myself the space to explore those feelings fully, right? And having someone who you are accountable to is helpful also. If those Wednesday meetings or those meetings, it's something that is too personal, then you're going to book a session. You're either going to book one with myself or you're going to book it with a psychiatrist, but you're going to book a session with somebody to help you process that. It is important to me. It is so important to me that we do not traumatize ourselves while seeking to heal. That we are gentle in our healing while we seek to keep momentum. Okay? All right. Self-defined spirituality. Now, when I say self-defined spirituality, I want you to understand as an ideology from a spiritual perspective, it is the only one that I espouse. Now, you might not be very spiritual, but you still need to hear this, all right? The reason why I practice something called self-defined spirituality is in 2022, I was being harassed by a few people online. And they decided that I was practicing New Age spirituality. And because I was practicing New Age spirituality, I was racist. And I had all these really problematic beliefs that were going to lead to more kind of racist ideology. And I was very confused by those claims for a few reasons. One, I never said that I practice New Age spirituality. What I have found is that if you believe anything outside of mainstream religion or are atheist, you are lumped into New Age spirituality. And it's an unfair lumping because what I really found was I am trying to reclaim some things that were stolen from me. And now in that reclamation, you put me on level with the same people who really co-opted a lot of ancient indigenous spiritual practices so that they could whitewash them and make money off of them. We're not doing the same thing. Mine is a reclamation of what was already entitled to me. Another one is an appropriation of something that was taken from people. All right. Now, you might follow New Age spirituality, and I think that's fine. I think we all have the space and we all have to have the power to determine our path for ourselves. And whether or not you claim it, we are all spiritual beings. We're all having a spiritual experience. That is an intrinsic part of our human experience. You cannot separate the spiritual from the human. And if you try, you're left with something that does no longer resemble a human. It's why so many people have lost their humanity. It's why the world is in the state that it is, because they have denied this one very essential part of themselves. So I really believe that your spiritual practice is a super intimate one. Whatever it is, that you don't owe anyone a conversation about it. If you look at our society, we feel really comfortable asking people some really intimate things, right? Like, what's your sexuality? Why does anyone think that they have a right to know that, beyond what I want to share? What do you believe? Well, my beliefs cannot be summed up so easy. And if they can be, you probably don't have a good handle on what you believe. You just taken somebody else's prepackaged beliefs and taken them as though they're your own without really sifting through them to understand which are beliefs that you actually support, right? So in all this turmoil, Spirit said to me, self-defined spirituality, Nat. And I was like, that's exactly what it is, SDS. And if you don't know, I am the founder of a nonprofit that launches at the beginning of 2025. And eventually we plan on becoming a church, right? And we call it sanctuary, not church. But the whole point of this is to give a space to seekers who self-define their practice and their walk. And they have no requirement to share any of those beliefs with anybody else in that space. Right? As long as we're united in one thing, and that is love as this anchoring energy behind everything. Love means I'm not doing harm to others. So as long as I'm loving and honoring myself well, it doesn't really matter what my beliefs and practices are to anyone else. Neither does anyone else's practices or beliefs have anything to do with me, unless and until I am using those beliefs to cause harm to somebody else. That's when that's a problem. That's when I cannot just abide by that. I don't want to be in community with those people. So I want to encourage you to take power and control over your gifts. I know for me, when I was first deconstructing Christianity, I was looking for a new home. I think a lot of people who are deconstructing from mainstream religion are looking for a new religious proxy to live by, right? We don't understand that we want to be free, but we don't know what freedom is. And so we just seek out another cage, right? And so at first I looked into Wicca. Well, that was not an inclusive space for me. If it has been for you, beautiful. It was not inclusive for me. And it was as damaging as mainstream religion was for me. I looked into some African spirituality and I just didn't feel a strong connection with it. It just didn't resonate with me the way I expected it to. I just explored a lot. I lived in an ashram in Australia, studying Buddhism. I did not, a lot of things did not give enough space for the fullness of who I was. But bits of things did. But then it became complicated for me because I was like, how do I explain this to other people? I centered other people, right? And I tore myself apart because I didn't know what to call myself with all my gifts. I didn't know how to explain my practice, my walk, which oddly enough, foundational to my walk is Norse mythology. So I believe that I have a right to explore that very freely, but I don't believe that I have a right to teach it. I don't believe that I have a right to rebrand it as something that's mine. Okay, I think cultural appropriation is a problem. But I do think I can take any practice that is available, if it resonates with me, any walk, any pantheon of beliefs or gods or angels that works for me, that resonates with me, and explore it and integrate it into my walk. And I don't owe anyone a conversation about that. And I feel the same way for the people who are around me or who I teach. So I want to encourage you to have much more freedom in your spiritual walk. I want to encourage you to define your walk for yourself, because that is where you're going to find your power. And as much as you might not be here for spiritual reasons, trust me, you're here for spiritual reasons. The healing that you are doing, the removing of the trauma that you are about to do is going to pull you into alignment with your gifts. Before I ever start teaching anyone how to use their gifts, they have to do shadow work with me, or they have to do shadow work, period. Why? Because we need to clear out everything that's hampering your access to your innate power. And I promise you, that's the trauma and limiting beliefs. So I want you to think about what's worked for you on your path, what has served you and what hasn't served you, and really start defining your spiritual journey for yourself. I mentioned before that we are forming a church, but we are calling this church our sanctuary, the Weirdo Collective Sanctuary. And I know a lot of people use the term in their own way. I wanted to explain why that is so important to us. The goal of this work, the goal of this releasing trauma, realigning with your power, is so that you can be a sanctuary first unto yourself. So that you can be a sanctuary unto yourself. Some of you are not safe for yourself. Some of you are your biggest bullies. Some of you are your biggest abusers. Some of you are your biggest haters. You are not a sanctuary. You are not safe inside yourself. So you keep secrets from yourself. You hide things from yourself. You refuse to see the truth of who you are. And then you feel unfulfilled and empty and stuck in your life. So the first thing is that you need to become a sanctuary unto yourself. In doing so, you automatically will become a sanctuary in your interpersonal relationships. The space I give for myself is often the space and the capacity to give space to other people. The more I don't judge myself, the less judgmental I am of others. The more I love myself, the more I stand authentically in my space, the more I want to be around other authentic people, and I give them the space to do the same thing. Once I have created sanctuary in my interpersonal relationships, then it spreads, and we have sanctuary here on this earth. And I know that I'm idealistic, and I'm going to remain being idealistic, because if we can't even imagine the change that we want individually and collectively, we are weak at creating it. Okay? So sanctuary is vitally important to me. It is a cornerstone of the work that we do. Are you a safe person? Are you safe to be in community with? Are you a help or are you a harm? And that starts with asking yourself those deeper questions for yourself. Now that we've talked about self-defined spirituality and sanctuary, that takes us to exercise number 1. Exercise number 1, you're going to look at your healing journey. You're going to reflect back on it. What has worked for you? Where did you stumble? Why did you stumble? Why did you give up? What edified you and what drained you and made you feel worse? It is an important exercise. It's important to reflect on where you've been so that you can chart a path that you know is going to serve you on where you are going. At the same time that Spirit was telling me about self-defined spirituality, it was also giving me a word about the best model to heal in. And as a spiritualist, I noticed that there weren't many spiritual healers out there who were doing this work in any like comprehensive, holistic way. And so they gave me a word about something that they call the healing triad. And I want to explain what the healing triad is to you, just so that you understand the premise of this work. There are 3 pillars, okay? So the first one is deconstruction of everything, right? We need to deconstruct our limiting beliefs. We need to look at how we are showing up so that we can see if it serves us. I call this part the cleaning out our spiritual closet, our emotional closet, right? When you're cleaning out your closet, you make a mess, don't you? You have to take everything out from the furthest back corners. You have to pull it out. You have to hold it up to the light. You have to see if it still fits you, if it serves you. You have to choose what to get rid of. You have to choose what you keep, right? So that is that deconstructing work. It is messy. It is unpleasant. It is tedious. You have to take everything out. You have to see and evaluate everything, but it's good work. It's good work, I promise you. So when you're in the trenches, hold on to the fact that the next part feels much better. And the next part is that edification of self. The being able to see yourself in a really beautiful, positive light, a true light. All right, so we need to build back. We deconstruct that negative foundation, that false foundation, identity of self, and then we need to build back an identity that actually serves you. This is where we get into notions of self-love, of honoring your voice, of being really authentic, of what your values are. This is where we get into really some of that building yourself up in your image, right? And the last part is spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is something we all need. Hey, it is, I like to think of it as our animal instincts. We all had it naturally. It was beaten out of us, programmed out of us, shamed out of us. We've been gaslight to believe that we can't trust our view of the world, that we can't trust our voice in so many different ways. And we're going to get into all of that much deeper as we get into the course. But you need to turn your animal instincts back on. The problem is, if you try to do that too quickly, you try to turn on your gifts, your intuition too quickly, and you haven't done that deconstruction, a lot of your messages will be more negative. And that's what I see in people all the time. All right. They will want to jump past that deconstruction, that reconstruction, just into like, I want to have super powerful gifts, right? But what happens is you meet energy at the level that you're vibrating. And so if you have a lot of trauma, what energy do you think you're meeting as you open to spirit? You're probably meeting some lower level, nastier entities. You're probably going to have attachments. You're going to call things into your home. You're going to mess with things you have no business messing with. It's going to cause a crisis. You're going to run away from it. You're going to think it's a spirituality and opening up to the spirituality that's the issue. No, sweetheart, your energy was the issue. You need to clear all the nasty out before you ever open to spirit in any meaningful way. Okay? That's important, very important work. Now, when I was first doing trauma work with clients, I had to create an energetic construct, right? And this energetic construct I needed to create so that my clients had a safe place to explore their trauma. Now, this is not in the workbook, but this will be here in the videos. I'm going to take you to a place called the jungle. The jungle is a wild, uncharted place inside of all of us, but it's also this place that a lot of us believe is in a pocket dimension, that our collective belief in it and spending time there has made it real. And it is this living thing that seems to change and shift, but it is a magical place where three things apply. You are completely safe, you are completely free, you are completely limitless. Hey, we're going to talk about law of alignment later, but I have found the more you align with those concepts in your inner world, the more you will naturally align with them in your outer world, right? And I want you to think about when have you ever felt completely safe, completely free, completely limitless? So this has been a beautiful tool for calming nervous system. This has been a beautiful tool for play, for connection, and for healing. So I just want to introduce you to the jungle now so that you will have the jungle as we do some of these visualizations, you know, as part of this course. So I'm going to clear and shield all of you myself, but I do encourage that you clear and shield before you do any of these visualizations with me. I have one of them on my main account, a clearing, a shielding, and a blessing on my YouTube. So you can find that there. Hey, everyone, please close your eyes. Settle into yourself. I want you to see this cloud of energy around you. And I want you to breathe it in with 3 breaths. Push that energy that you just breathed in. Push it out to every part of your body. Breathe in again. Pull it in. Push that energy to the bottom of your toes, top of your head, fingertips. One more time. There we go. You are in a dark place. There's nothing in front. There's nothing behind. There's nothing above. There's nothing below. You are floating in nothingness. Be there. And now a door of light has appeared before your eyes. As you place your hand on the door to open it, you will see it magically open on its own to beautiful, bright, blinding white light. And as you step into that place and your eyes adjust, you will start to see the grass under your feet, this big open prairie of beautiful, lush grass in front of you. You will see the biggest tree you can imagine. This is our tree of life. Her name is Moses. To the left, you will see the jungle. To the right, you will see a sparkling oasis, lush, with living water there. All the way in the back, you're going to see a river in front of a mountain range. The river is where we do a lot of our ancestral healing. I just want you to be in this place right now. Why don't you go fly for a second or go run into the water? You can teleport. You can do anything you want here. Just feel how free you are. Feel how safe you are. Feel how limitless you are. This is the jungle. And this is where we will do all of our visualizations. Okay? Our visualizations are profound and they are deep. And I want you to remember, if you're ever discomforted once, one, see me there holding your hands. Turn around, I'm right behind you now, wherever you are. Two, you can always open your eyes. All right? So we do not stay in places that cause us too much distress. We get out of there. We're not going to be cowards, but we're also going to make sure that we're keeping ourselves safe always, right? I want you to know that the jungle is a closed room, meaning that you open it through me. So nothing can get you that might try to hurt you, right? So it's a safe place. Now, hopefully your eyes are open. There's one last exercise we're addressing in this video, and that's exercise 2, where you're going to map your healing journey. In exercise 1, you're looking at what your journey or what has worked with you in the past as far as healing has gone and your spiritual journey. Now we're really looking at like the times, you know, what exactly have we done? Like really being more discreet and looking at our journey and our path and mapping it out so that we can clearly see it all in front of us. What has worked again, what hasn't worked. So in the first exercise, it's more broad. In this exercise, we're getting much deeper. If you already went deep with the first one, I would just ask you to revisit it and just double check. Make sure you didn't miss anything, all right? This was good work this time, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Lots of information, but in video 3, we're jumping right into some of this work, all right?